This game has a rating difference of 700 points, with one player being a mystery super grandmaster over a 2700 rating. This means a lower rated player has only about a 0.1% chance to win this game. Trust me, I did the math. These odds are infinitesimally small. And if you are a chess player, you know how challenging it can be to play against a higher rated opponent, and when that opponent has been in the top 15 chess players in the world, it can be daunting. Keep watching to see if our hero can overcome these odds. And if you have any guesses about who this Super Grandmaster might be, please leave your guesses down below in the comments. In the meantime, we're going to get into this game. We have, with the white pieces, our Mystery Grandmaster going e4, and then c5 with our everyday average chess player guy. From there, we quickly get into a Rasalimo, which is a very common opening. And so far, all these moves are really normal. They're all either the most common or the second most common move, so there's not really much to discuss up until this point. Here, there have been thousands of games played in this position, but this move is only the 6th most common move, and from this position, there have only been 13 master games played. The point of this move is to try to develop the bishop on this diagonal, or this diagonal somewhere, facing down towards the king, because you don't really want to develop your bishop here, and developing your bishop here gets kind of awkward. You don't really want to go there. Here, your bishop ends up getting trapped. So it makes some sense trying to develop your bishop the other way. In response, our mystery GM goes a4 and we have a5. And even just in this position, this game has never been reached in terms of master games. So this is obviously never a game that the Super Grandmaster would have ever played. He goes to just develop his knight from here, which is a pretty normal move. This move looks a little awkward, but the point is that at some point, this knight is obviously trying to get here, which would leave 2 attackers here. And if this knight goes to f6, then it would block the pawn. So I'll just show you that. This knight goes here, and when this knight jumps, it's a double attack on this pawn. And that's not very good. So instead, knight h6, followed by knight c4, which was expected, and then f6 to defend the pawn. Because, of course, if you try to defend it this way, it ends up going pretty badly for black, with the bishop eyeing this knight the whole time. So you don't want that. Instead, f6 is the move, very reasonable, and then development of the bishop from our mystery grandmaster. Black castles, as you can see, with the pushing of the f-pawn, his king is a little open, but that's not really a worry yet. We'll just see where it goes from here. And it's in this position, I looked at the Lichess database, and this game has never been reached in an online game before. So this is a complete novelty after just 12 moves. Moving forward, obviously the point of this queen move is to target the knight. So the knight has to move. And then we have b4. And based on the commentary from Guy, this move was unexpected, and he thought he'd made a mistake at some point leading up to this to allow this move. Because the problem he saw was takes, and then a5, b takes a5, bishop takes c5, and then he moves his rook, which isn't very good, because of course then the bishop can just take this pawn, and white is way more active. His pieces are way more active, they're eyeing a lot more things, this knight can jump around at some point, and of course, if this pawn takes, then you lose your rook. So you can't do that because of the pin. So really white just looks better here. And what he might have missed was the fact that he can just leave his rook there, Guy. He can sacrifice the exchange, which is crazy. Not really a move you can expect a 2000 level player to make. And then he's actually in a pretty decent position. He has the bishop pair. 2 bishops. He has this pawn that's a pass pawn connected to another pawn, which is going to be a threat basically the whole game. And his pieces are decently active. So he definitely has more than enough compensation for the pawn disadvantage in sacrificing the exchange. But instead what happens in the game is he goes f5, which isn't a great move because it opens up his king. And actually, at this point, the Super Grandmaster shouldn't continue opening up his king. The reason being that a5 would have been a lot better, Because after this sequence of moves, which looks really similar to the moves that I showed you earlier, it is actually white who comes ahead with the advantage because they get 2 pawns. And in this case, there is not enough compensation for the 2 pawns. And white is looking better. But this didn't happen. This was a simul. So the mystery Super Grandmaster was playing 10 games at once, and this was just one of them. So in all likelihood, he was just looking to simplify, to open up the king, and look for something later on. Because with just an hour per person, there's not a lot of time to really think about your moves. In this position now, even though black's king is quite open, there aren't really any pieces threatening it, so there's not really an advantage one way or the other. And black believes that the best move is bishop c6. It makes a lot of sense. You're developing a piece that hasn't been touched yet in this whole game. The problem is there's actually a better move. Instead, if black goes e4, then there become some problems for white. Of course, white can't take with the pawn, because then this is hanging. Instead, what white can do is take with the knight, and then this sequence happens. And at the end of everything, it's pretty even. Even though Guy is up in material, white is more active in terms of their pieces in placement, and the bishops and queen looking towards the king. This actually looks pretty hard to defend from black's perspective as a human, as a person. So it makes sense why black maybe didn't go for this move. So instead, they develop their bishop, and then white decides to go a5. And b5 is a very strange move, not only because you create a literal Tetris piece on the board, but you're offering away this passed pawn, and you're giving an absolutely wonderful outpost for this knight. So white seizes on this opportunity and goes for the outpost. There's only one way to get rid of this knight, because you're not going to be able to get your bishop around to get it. The knight would take too many moves. So black decides to sacrifice the exchange, and from this point, it's not really looking good. Black's pawn structure is a mess. Like, what are these pawns doing? You have 3 pawn islands versus the 2 of white, and as I said, you have a Tetris piece, which isn't doing anything at the moment. Not to mention the king is super exposed on diagonals and files, and this rook has the open file. It's really not looking good. So from here, white brings their rook back, and black moves their bishop in, trying to attack on some sort of diagonal, maybe trying to use their bishop pair to some sort of advantage if they're able to get this bishop in somewhere. But it really should just be pretty straightforward for white to close this out at this point, especially after black goes knight d6, because then there's the move rook takes b4. And this is just black giving up another pawn because of the pin. Of course, if you take, the queen is lost. And then you really lost the game. Then you just resign. So instead, black decides to lose another pawn, because why not? Let's just get rid of all our pawns. We don't need them. We're only playing a 2750 rated Super Grandmaster, you know? Who needs pawns? And so, of course, white snags the pawn, and black recaptures. And then white takes back with the pawn. Wait, what? Why did they take with the rook? Why would they ever take with the rook? They can just take with... They could have just taken with the pawn, right? Instead of giving up a rook? Why would they sacrifice the rook exchange for no reason? That makes no sense. I am flabbergasted by that move, but I guess the only explanation is the fact that this Grandmaster is playing 10 games at once. They have to make a move quickly. I guess they didn't see that the bishop was hanging to their pawn. This is a mistake I would be upset making, and I'm way lower rated than that. So the fact that this mistake happens gives me a lot of hope for my future in chess, and kind of makes me a little disappointed for the state of Super Grandmaster play in the year 2022. Anyways, we're moving on. The mystery Grandmaster is still ahead, so if they take that advantage, they still should be able to close out this game. Black decides to throw their bishop into the mix, just, you know, attacking a piece, because why not? This also looks like a move that an 800 level player could make. But whatever, just give this rook the open file. Who cares? From here, black tries to take the other open file, and there is a big blunder. At this point, white thinks that they've lost it. They think that no matter what they do, the queen will be lost. As you can see, the queen has one, two, three, 4 moves. One of these moves is dangerous because you lose the queen. Another of these moves is dangerous because you lose the queen. And another of these moves is dangerous because the queen will die. There is one move here, but the queen gets pinned to the rook. And so if the queen moves, say here, then the rook gets captured and it's checkmate. The thing that the Grandmaster missed, they thought they'd lost it at this point. They got really frustrated and they threw h4 on the board. The thing that they missed was the fact that they can actually go queen b1. And that's the only move that saves them. Because now, with rook a1, they have queen b3 check. And black has to block it. Captures, and both players have a bishop, but white has 5 pawns, and I know I said earlier they should have easily converted, but at this point, I could convert this game. You could convert this game. Anyone could convert this game. So, yeah. That is not what happened, though. Instead, white loses their queen for a rook and a bishop. And it's back to being anyone's game. Because this game is flip-flopping all over the place, and anything could happen. So now black tries to work with their advantage. They have a 3-to-1 pawn majority on this side. And so if they're able to somehow get a passed pawn, then they would love to do that. Of course, black doesn't want to let them do that. And in this position, white has one main opportunity to save the game. And they miss it. This is a huge mistake here because the winning move is bishop g5. The reason that's a winning move is because no matter what black does, even if they take this pawn, there is a perpetual check. There is no escaping it. The only way that black could escape it is by going king e6, which loses the game because of rook e7, and the queen is lost forever. It's gone. and then the game's over. Instead of this happening, instead of the perpetual check, we have this random check, which is just another thrown away check. Just, I see checking now. Not what you want to do. You got to think about your moves, even if you don't have a lot of time. So from here, white doesn't really have anything, and black can continue pushing their advantage, using their pawns, which now are 2-pass pawns, continuing to push them, and really, they're not stoppable. Here, at this point, there is a trap that black could fall for. Say if black goes here, check, and the king moves, you take this bishop, you're like, oh, now it's just a queen versus a rook. And I have a pawn that's about to be a queen. But there's a problem, because rook d8 check, the king can't move to the square, and white is queening. So instead of that, black takes a much safer approach and wins the pawn. That is really the only way white had a chance to win. And from here, it's very simple and straightforward. As long as black doesn't lose their queen, they are winning this game. And they quickly push for a queen, and the game's over. And that's the end of this crazy game between a 2050 rated player and a 2750 rated Grandmaster. It is now time to reveal the identity of this Grandmaster. The name of this Grandmaster? This Super Grandmaster was none other than the #1 ranked England player, Michael Adams. Michael Adams has been the #12 ranked player in the world. He has a peak rating of 2761, and just a few months ago, he lost to an untitled, around 2050 rated player. So the moral of this story is even Super Grandmasters can make huge mistakes multiple times in a single game. So don't feel bad if you make a mistake, and don't resign too early. This game was based on a Reddit post where the user uploaded a signed score sheet between them and Michael Adams, where Michael Adams signed it, And you can see all the moves recorded here, so that you know I'm telling the truth about this game, because of course everything on the internet is true. This game was played in a simul where Michael Adams was playing 10 people at the same time, and this was one of his 2 losses. This wasn't even the best board. To give Michael Adams some credit, he was playing 10 games at the same time when he lost this game, and there were at least 2 or 3 people rated higher than this player. There were some people in the 2200 range, and he won 8 out of the 10 games, given only an hour to complete all the games. So really, it wasn't that bad. It was just this game was a very poor showing, and Black capitalized on the mistakes made by the Super Grandmaster, Michael Adams.